Hello, everyone. We'll be starting in just a second. Welcome to Learn with Common Sense. Please note that this conversation will be posted to our Common Sense Ed YouTube channel, along with the links and the resources shared and discussed in our chat today. My name is Sue Thoughts, and I'm the Senior Program Manager for Common Sense here in Los Angeles. And I am joined today by two very special guests. I am so happy to have both SONAL Patel and Dr. SHARISA Chan here joining us from the San Bernardino County Office of the Superintendent of Schools. So please, both of you, I would like you to introduce yourselves and tell me a little bit about yourselves and your backgrounds. I'll start with Dr. Chan.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Chan, and thank you, Sue, by the way. My name is Dr. Chan, and I am a digital learning project specialist with San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools. I have been working with San Bernardino County for just a few months now. My background is mostly in teaching. I have been a teacher for 15 years, and I've taught kindergarten, first grade, third, fourth, fifth, excuse me, high school. And a lot of my teaching had to do with integrating science and technology and computer science into what the students were learning. So now I get the great privilege of helping other teachers and administrators learn how to do that with their students to help build capacity in their classrooms.
Fantastic. Wonderful. I'm so glad to have you here today. And we don't really know each other very well, but I'm hoping to learn more about you today and your experience and all the good stuff that you bring to this position. So I do know our next guest, SONAL Patel. I've known her for quite a long time, and I'm so happy to have you join us today, SONAL. Thank you. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Thank you, Sue. It's always a pleasure to have any conversation with you. Sue asked us to join her today, and I always long for the chance to be able to talk with Sue. My name is SONAL Patel. I work at San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools, and I've been here for the past 3 years. I'm on my 4th year actually here. And what we primarily do at the county is build the capacity of educators and administrators across our county in the area of educational technology and computer science. My background is also teaching and instructional coaching in educational technology and literacy. And I stumbled into the computer science world when I started my work here when the new computer science education standards came out at the state level. And I took a course on computer science equity and realized that we needed to do something about the issues around that. And in fact, yesterday we had our second successful computer science equity summit where we talked about issues involving the underrepresentation of females and students of color and students from low socioeconomic backgrounds in the area of computer science. And in my work within the CSTA Equity Fellowship, I'm continuing to evolve that particular area of work. So thank you for having me here. And it's really great to have Dr. Chan on board and with our team as well.
Absolutely. All right. So the reason I have you both here is because I know very little about computer science and its connection with digital citizenship. In fact, I noticed that on code.org, they included all these digital citizenship lessons in their foundational curriculum for their kindergarten through 5th grade students. And I was thrilled, right? But I was just thinking, like, how did they put these in there? What's the connection, right? And what does digital citizenship have to do with coding and computer science? So maybe you could explain that to me and help me figure that out.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll go for that first. And then Dr. Chan, please feel free to add. But part of what code.org put on there, and I was really excited to see that as well, was encouraging students to think critically about the user information that some websites request or share, right? And on the back end with computer science, involves keeping people safe as well online. When we think about cybersecurity, we're thinking about ensuring that we're not sharing information that is personal and sharing private information such as social security numbers and date of births. That could all create havoc in the digital space. And so teaching students from very young to be responsible and safe online is important, and it has some implications in the computer science world and how programmers continue to work with algorithms to ensure that our students are safe, especially when it concerns cybersecurity.
Yeah, certainly. Dr. Chan, did you have anything to add to that?
No, Sana really said everything that has to do with that. I mean, it's the only other thing I may consider adding in there is just that we have to remember that when our students are interacting and engaging in computer science, oftentimes they're sharing information out. And when we consider that with digital citizenship, we just really want to make sure that what they're sharing is relevant and truthful, and they're just being modeled digital citizens while they're sharing and creating information.
Yeah, I noted, I know that our people who are using all this language and have this great power to, to shape our worlds, they need to be moral and ethical people, right? Like we sure hope they are. And so with, with all great power comes great responsibility, right? And so we want to make sure that there is this strong connection between, digital citizenship and this idea and computer science. So, so when you mentioned cybersecurity, and we know that cybersecurity is more than the technology that you use, that it's about the humans and it's about the culture and the practices that we have that, that are built by those who use the technology. So, we talk about, creating passwords and why you share them, and that's part of the culture and digital citizenship and who you trust. How do we teach that kind of thing to students, or is that part of what you do? That's something I was kind of curious about. Dr. Chan?
So definitely, I'm glad that first off that you mentioned how the cybersecurity has so many different components to it. It's not just knowing how to use coding. It's also decrypting and looking into the way that we're using our technology. So we definitely want to make sure that we're teaching students that, as you're creating your password, you're being very, very particular in the way that you do it. And it's like you mentioned before, sharing information with people who you trust and building out that information. I know we just had an event on Saturday for Cyber IE where we had middle school students attend, and we were teaching them about the ways you can work through different areas together as if you were a cybersecurity person working in that field. And we just want to make sure that we're building up the capacity in that area. I can say, I know I've had students in the past when I say, what do you want to be when you grow up? Oh, I want to be a hacker. And it's like, oh, let's change that into, hey, why don't we work in cybersecurity and prevent that so that we can all be safe online and work together?
Yeah, absolutely. I know, like technology is more than the boxes and wires and the ones and zeros, and it is about, there's a whole culture built around it. And we need to make sure that we are shaping that culture in a positive direction. So I certainly appreciate that. I wanted to ask you, I know that you had this Computer Science Equity Summit yesterday, and I know both of you are very much champions of equity, and it's very close to your heart, obviously. It is a lot of the work that you do. So yesterday in the summit that you had, you shared, well, not you, Dr. Scott, a bunch of folks shared statistics about the underrepresentation of girls and women and minority groups in computer science education and careers. And what can teachers do to increase equity and access in computer science across all schools? What could I do as a teacher if, you know, if this is something that I feel strongly about? What do you suggest? So, you know, Sonal, do we want to start there?
Absolutely, yeah, I'll start this. Part of this is about considering, you mentioned it with access. I want to start right there with access in ensuring that our students are given opportunities to engage with computer science from kindergarten all the way through to 12th grade. Because in the past, it was only, you know, high school students that were taking CS classes. But by that point, our younger kids hadn't been exposed to the computer science world and were not engaged in the typical population of students. We're not diverse. We're not diverse, right? We weren't getting the students that we wanted to see, such as girls and underrepresented minorities in the computer science space. So access is an important thing. And then what are we doing within computer science? Are we ensuring that the computer science curriculum itself, such as Exploring Teaching Computer Science, which is a high school curriculum that is very culturally responsive, are we ensuring that that curriculum is going to entice our kids to engage with CS and feel included within the computer science world and feel that they have a voice and an impact on computing culture in general? So considering the curriculum, and yesterday, you're right, during the Computer Science Summit, Dr. Alison Scott talked specifically about the culturally responsive framework, which talks about 6 areas that we want to be mindful of within that framework as we integrate computer science within our classrooms. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Chan to see if she'd like to add anything else.
Thanks, Sonal. I actually do want to add a little bit more. So you definitely hit the nail on the head with that. When I think about this also, the accessibility and inclusivity is so important. And Sue, as you mentioned, yes, we're seeing discrepancies and disparities with our different students, like our students of color and our female students. And as I mentioned before, I taught lower grade before, and I did integrate computer science into my teaching, and the lower grade students can do it. It's just it's a whole mindset thing. So that's something that we definitely want to consider, building capacity for our teachers in terms of mindset and our students. Students will usually grab and go and just run with it. It's the teachers who we really want to encourage. You know, it's not that difficult. No, computer science doesn't just mean coding. There's so much more in that's there, and it can actually be integrated into every subject that's being taught, including social emotional learning. So it's just something that can be included everywhere, really, in the classroom.
Yeah. So you mentioned, you know, social emotional learning, and you mentioned, you know, I know yesterday Dr. Scott talked about culturally responsive frameworks and using culturally responsive frameworks when teaching computer science. Like, you know, that to me was very eye-opening, and understanding the experiences and the culture of our students, bringing that in to computer science and into computational thinking and into those CS, you know, teachings. Like, that to me was amazing, and I would love to hear more of that in the future. I would follow her anywhere. And so, so what are some of the resources that you've seen about about how educators are using some of these resources creatively? Like, do teachers and integrate computer science into things like social emotional learning or reading, or, you know, what does that look like in a classroom? How does that happen, Dr. Chan?
Okay, so I'm actually glad you asked that, because I haven't been out of the classroom too long yet. Of course, I said I did it with my computer science with my students, and integrating computer science in the classroom is so much fun, and it's super engaging for your students. So I'll answer the first question just briefly. In terms of resources that are available, there are things like code.org, NVidCode, Microsoft MakeCode, Microbit, Ozobot, Spheros, Osmo. There's all these different tools that exist out there. One of my favorites is Microbit. I absolutely love it. And for social emotional learning, I've seen students build out a little kind of emoji thing on this small computing device. It has an LED display, and they actually code on their device first on their computer and send this code or this program that they've developed to their computing device. And they can share like how they're feeling for the day. They can put a smiley face on there or a sad face and say, you know, I want quiet time. They can put a message on there for other students and share that message out and say, you know, I hope you're having a great day. Just building up that, you know, social emotional in the classroom, but also the relationships and community within the classroom. And then also I've seen teachers use a program called, the name escapes me, but Unfold Studio. That's another one that I've seen used for building out stories, to choose your own adventure stories. And it can be done in any language. So talking about accessibility, opening it up to our language learners, it's just a great way to tie in what students are already doing, but doing it in a way that just reinvents how it's being displayed and the experience that the teacher and the student's going through.
That is amazing. Oh, that's wonderful. I don't think that those connections, I mean, that's what I want. I want to understand how teachers can put these connections together. Sonal, did you have anything else that you wanted to add to that?
No, I think Dr. Chan covered that question really well.
Well, I do want to ask you, Sonal, when it comes to like how teachers learn how to do that, right? Like it's one thing for me to hear Dr. Chan tell me like, you could do this, right? It's another thing for teachers to understand how to get started with professional development and where to find these resources. What are some of your favorite ways that folks can learn about computer science and coding? And what are your favorite orgs? Yeah.
Some of my favorite organizations are Microbit EDU. We've been doing a lot of work with them, and in particular, they have helped us to be able to integrate physical computing into various different subject areas and into people's classrooms. And we like Microbits for the ease of it, its use, and for the types of things that you can create. They have a Do Your Bit challenge on Microbit, where students globally are connected with the sustainable goals and are trying to create solutions to problems using microbits and other coding platforms. And so we love Microbit EDU, and they have this free program that SHARISA has put into the Wakelet that we're going to be sharing with you. And that free program allows educators from all over the world to be able to have some microbits sent to them, actual microbits sent to them and microbit packages as they continue their learning microbits. I also love, now we're on the topic of digital citizenship, I like Code HS's curriculum. I don't know whether you've seen that digital citizenship curriculum, Sue. But that one, they have a digital citizenship curriculum as well, and it's free and available. So I highly recommend that one, and that's on the Wakelet as well. You already mentioned code.org, one of our favorite organizations, and we love the integration of digital citizenship. One of my favorite organizations that we're continuing to work with, both SHARISA and I, within their SCALE project, is CS for CA. CS for CA are continuing to evolve the work around computer science equity, and we really appreciate that. And they give tons and tons of advice on professional development within the computer science for CA administrators guide. So I highly recommend people checking that out. That'll be within the Wakelet as well. So those are just a few.
CS for CA is computer science for California. Does that apply outside of California? Because we have many folks that are.
Yeah, you know what? Okay. I'm also a CSTA equity fellow, and so I've been.
What is CSTA? Tell us about that.
California, sorry, not California. Oh goodness, Computer Science Teachers Association, and they have an amazing fellowship program in which educators from all over America come together and talk about how we can integrate computer science, how we can evolve the work around computer science equity, right? And so I recently brought in the CS for CA Administrators Guide, because you'll see a lot of resemblances between the work that's been done, say, up in New York and California, with some differences with regards to the demographics that we serve. But essentially, the platforms that are out there, are things that we all engage in. One of them is CS for All, which is written about in the CS for CA guide, right? CS for All have this really wonderful scripts training that you'll see here, certainly, and across the nation. With county offices starting this work, especially in California. We're going to have a group of stakeholders, including educators. So I hope you're one of those educators, those of you that are listening, come together with their administrators and talk about how we can create a wonderful computer science program that really thinks about inclusion and equity and access within those programs. So I'm very excited about the work that continues to happen with CS for CA, as well as CS for All in regards to scripts. Dr. Emily Tomford, who was speaking with us yesterday during our summit, has given us so many ways in which we can, expand access to computer science. And I don't know whether Dr. Chan wants to add to that. I know that was a lot, but I get so excited about it. There's just so much happening, and we're ecstatic over here.
Nothing
Yeah,
to add here.
absolutely.
You did a great job. Thank you. Sorry, Sue.
Oh, there is I have to tell you about this program that I actually went on this summer. Dr. Chan actually led an inclusive CS professional development that came out of University of Texas. Would you like to just say a little bit about that?
Definitely. Yes. So this course that actually one of my former colleagues, Jesse Gerbata, and I led was just engaging teachers in the idea of that culturally responsive pedagogy and considering who your audience is. Who are your students? Where do they come from? Where's their background? What do they come with? And how do you use what you have to meet them where they are? But definitely taking a look into like a different lens, whether or not it be cultural, it could be something that has to do with their home life, whatever it may be. What makes them tick? How do they work? What do they enjoy? And that's the whole thing about this computer science thing too, is what do the students really love? That's how you get buy-in. How do you tie it into what they love? And then also tie in that digital citizenship piece of, hey, as we're building our computer science culture here in our classroom or wherever we're working, how are we being model citizens as we share and create and build and support one another? So the whole course was about just thinking about that, thinking about, the languages that might be in the home or, that the students may use, who their friends are, who they connect with, how you connect and relate with them. All of those things are so important. It's just taking that equitable approach and looking at it that way and really meeting them where they are.
Yes, excellent. So is that a course you will be repeating? Is that a course that, you are making available anywhere in the future?
And that's something that we definitely hope to do. I know that there's been talk about maybe opening it up once again. It sparked a lot of conversation that was it was a great, uncomfortable conversation, but much needed, right? So, and I think if we open it up again, it would be great because there are things that we all have to share about where we come from and how we can relate to our students, and being somebody that maybe they see in themselves.
Excellent. Well, from what I am hearing from both of you and what I have learned today, I'm telling you, I'm starting from very little. I think of coding and computer science as just like sitting around and learning a language, right? Like this is what I think of, what I thought of before. And now I'm really starting to understand computer science is a culture. It is a way of thinking. It is a way of bringing your students into, yes, that language is part of it. It's a tool, but it is a way of expression and creativity and in bringing our students together. And it's something that everyone needs as part of their lives, as part of our students' lives. It's not just for a certain select group of people. And so for that mindset to change and for that culture to blossom, especially here in California, we need to be able to be more inclusive. And we need to make sure that all of our students are comfortable and feel welcome in that space of computer science and of coding. So it is very apparent that that's what you're doing in San Bernardino, in the county, and that you're helping to do that for all of your districts. I hope that all of these resources that you're sharing today will inspire some folks to get started. We know people are interested in digital citizenship as part of culture, but I hope that, some of these things that they're learning today might make them say, that is for me, right? That is for me. That is for my students. And I love that connection. And I want my students to be able to do that. Right. So that was my goal today, was to learn something. I knew I would have this conversation with both of you and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I should have recorded that. So I was proactive today and we got it recorded and we got it out and available to everyone. If your summit that you had yesterday is available, is that on the Wakelet? Yes. Cool. Awesome.
Yes, we can add the link on the weekly. We would be happy to, or share some insights on the weekly as to what was covered yesterday for sure.
Yeah, anything, any of the resources, they'll all be on that Wakelet. Thank you so much if there's any last thoughts, by all means, Sonal, Dr. Chan, if you
there's going to be some last thoughts. There is. So Sue's helped us really greatly with trying to create a digital citizenship culture within our, within San Bernardino and Riverside County. And that really does take every stakeholder to be involved in that conversation. So it's not just the educator in the classroom, it is the counselor who helps with recruitment efforts of students students, in computer science classes, and helps to keep students safe and responsible online. It's the administrator who, helps to evolve computer science programs that are equitable for all and inclusive. And then it's the educator that continues to embed digital citizenship and computer science within their classroom culture. And one of the things, and we're probably going to have another webinar soon, but one of the things we didn't cover is algorithmic bias and how important that is within the work. And I'm not going to start because I won't end, and I know that we have a timeline with that. But I do want to talk about the Student Data Privacy Alliance and how important that is for us to ensure that the vendors that we're engaging with, the programs that we're using online are safe and available. So I encourage you to look at the resources that we've added to the Wakelet. California has its own Student Data Privacy Alliance, that has been created by our site organization. But there is a nationwide one, that we included as well, the Student Data Privacy Consortium, that helps with policy and resources and things like that. So that's my final thoughts. I always love to talk with Sue, and I want to continue that conversation. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Chan for any final thoughts.
So Sonal and I are really good about being on the same wavelength. We think a lot of things the same way. We just are on the same path. So Sonal said everything I would have said. I am just going to add one thing in regards to stakeholders. So yes, the counselors, the teachers, the administrators, but the parents too. Parents are a critical component of, building up computer science for students. And it's just even working with their mindset of, a computer scientist doesn't have to look like a specific type of person. We can all do it, and I would definitely encourage parents to kind of push the envelope with your kiddos a little bit there, because they'll be engaged if they love it. I mean, they can develop so many great things for our world that we live in. So,
thank you for remembering that. Sorry, Dr. Chen, I completely forgot about families and parents. They're important. But I want to give a shout out to Common Sense Media for their amazing lesson plans that they have online that helps us to help students stay safe and responsible online. So thank you so much for the wonderful curriculum. So that's definitely where I want to end that thought.
Well, you all are fantastic. I really appreciate your expertise in sharing with me today and getting me all inspired to have you back again for another discussion. I think we could go even deeper when it comes to data, algorithms, bias, and all of that great stuff that we need to help our students understand, our parents, our families, our administrators. They all need to understand this in order to be able to build that culture. So, and student data privacy, of course, is so near and dear to our heart. And, organizations like code.org, of course, we rate all of these useful resources for their privacy and make sure that they are all being responsible with that student data. So yes, by all means, we will come back again someday. Thank you so much for having us. If you enjoyed this conversation today, please share it with your friends. It's a recording. Share it around, put it on YouTube, and it's on YouTube. So put it on Twitter and share it with other folks that you want to see this conversation. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you again soon. Take care. Thank you to both of you.